to my YouTube channel. It's yours truly, Khalif, aka K. Welcome to my channel. And I have something juicy that I wanted to chat about with you all today. It's a conversation that has been happening for a while on the current season of Real Housewives of Potomac, and it's about colorism, okay? So, this particular conversation is important. And here's the thing, I'm gonna give you a little bit of the background as to what's going on and where the disconnect is happening, right? So we all see it, right? I'm not the first person to report this or say it. Like, I'm not the first. Some people get it, some people don't. And the reason why I think that is, and I'm gonna say the reason first, is because the topic of colorism in general makes people uncomfortable, right? When a dark-skinned person, specifically a dark-skinned woman, calls someone out about their particular privilege and how they are utilizing their privilege and how they show up and how they are weaponizing their own identity to get either a point across or a narrative or get some type of advantage in a situation because they are aware, right, of the privilege that they hold with the color of their skin, right? It's something that people just cannot take and they can't handle, especially if they are also either like a person of color, mixed race, biracial, whatever they are. People who are typically lighter or, have those, features and so forth, featureism, colorism, things like that, and they are higher on the totem pole, closer to whiteness in their proximity, have a very difficult time just accepting how they are acting, right? Now, with all that being said, Candiace is on season 7 of The Real Housewives, right? She is having an issue with another cast member named Gizelle Bryant and also Robin, right? Robin is Gizelle's sidekick. We all know that that is her role on the show. And essentially, the issue is occurring because Gizelle has been making allegations of SA. Google what SA stands for. There are certain words that I cannot say on YouTube, so I'm going to be try to be as mindful as I can to not say certain explicit words, but SA allegations, right? Because there was a scenario off camera that occurred, I believe it was off camera or during a break or something like that, in which Candiace's husband went into a room with Gizelle, okay? And Gizelle stated that she felt uncomfortable. And Chris left, right? Chris left. But the issue that they're having is that Chris was aware that he made Gizelle feel uncomfortable, so he left the particular room because of the optics of it, right? Although she did ask him to come and speak to her in the room in private, and then on the show, she's making comments to basically alluding to how he really, really wanted her, right? At first, it started off or at least how I saw it. It kind of started off as like Gizelle just being Gizelle and being messy and trying to have a moment, per usual, for the show. But then the narrative elevated to this conversation of, I feel uncomfortable. He did this to me. He did something to me when he did not do anything. And this is where women have to be careful in particular. Women like Gizelle have to be careful in particular, right, with conversations like that. So that's where it started. Now, where colorism comes into play, and it's not just that. The reason why I brought up Gizelle in the situation with Chris and Candiace is because people are policing Candiace's reaction and her anger, right? Her anger and her reaction to calling out how people are acting towards her on that particular cast when she gets emotional, when she gets irate, right? And she distinctively calls out how her and Wendy Osefo are treated. Now I'm going to pause there. I'm going to rewind it and deal with Wendy. So Wendy Osefo went on a trip to Florida with all of the girls on the cast. Her and Mia already had tension. Her and the girls already had tension. Wendy is not liked on the cast, right? But whenever Wendy is going toe-to-toe verbally, the girls tend to gang up on her and isolate her. And this is where the colorism comes into play. It's the way that the house is divided. It's the way that Wendy is handled and singled out, right? So, of course, Candiace is going to have her back. I mean, her and Candiace have a great rapport. They are good friends. They always have supported each other. But with Wendy, the issue that Wendy had, right, from my recollection, and you could drop down below in the comments and let me know. Wendy has always kind of spoken up about this particular colorism, but it really reared its ugly head in Florida when Mia and her had this silly debacle about Peter, right? And Mia was basically trying to spill some tea that really wasn't even tea in regards to Wendy and Peter. And honestly, I think so. What happened is they were going back and forth, having a moment for TV, right? But then Mia decides to throw a drink on her, throw a martini on her, and it hits her in the eyes. And now, Wendy is a professor at Johns Hopkins University, right? She's a professor. So I remember when that scene happened, because that's where I stopped watching the show, full transparency. Now, I did catch up on the clips, and I did a little bit of research. I did watch a little bit of the reunions, both, just a little bit, for this particular conversation, right? But you could, that scene of Real Housewives in which Wendy had the drink thrown in her face, you could see her sitting there like, okay, I'm trying to keep my composure, because if I act up, this is where that respectability does come in, right? And this is the dance that Black women do, all Black women do on reality television, especially dark-skinned women, right? This is the dance that Black people, specifically Black women, do on reality TV. It's like, okay, am I gonna be messy? If I start turning up and if I start, popping off, and if I start doing all of this, they're gonna label me as an angry Black woman. They're gonna say that I'm this. They're gonna say that I'm that, right? So you could see on Wendy's face that she was like, "Oh, this girl done threw a drink on me. She taking it too far. Like, I want to whip her." You could tell that Wendy was like, "I want to whip her." Oh, like she done threw a drink on me. I gotta lay hands. I gotta lay hands. I gotta lay these hands. I gotta lay these hands, girl. And it was really unfortunate, because what was so ugly about that scene was not only how Mia just threw the drink on her, and honestly, she threw the drink on her, because she potentially is colorist. That's the first thing. And not only that, she couldn't take a chocolate queen lighting her up like that, right? She just couldn't take. And what I've noticed about Candiace and Wendy particularly is that they're very good with their words, and they know how to read, especially that Candiace. Candiace is very good. Wendy is good too, right? But they know how to dig, and they know how to read and cut verbally, right? Now, I'm going to give Candiace a little bit of pushback. And we're going to put a pin in the pushback I'm going to give Candiace. I'm going to give that in a few minutes here. With Wendy, what was so sad was how Gizelle and Robin grabbed their phones, and they were like, look at her getting aggressive. Oh, you started it. When Wendy did not start that altercation. Mia started that altercation because Mia was looking for a moment on TV. Flash forward to the reunion, Mia half-ass took accountability, half-a took accountability. Ashley took accountability, in my opinion. I think Ashley took accountability, but Gizelle and Robin didn't. I mean, they never take accountability for the colorism conversation. And honestly, it wasn't good enough, right? And I think this is why viewers are so disappointed, because in general, it's not good enough. So we're not going to give too much, light or leeway. Andy let Candiace have the floor. Could they have brought someone in to facilitate the conversation on colorism? Maybe. Did they have enough time in that segment? Probably not. But let's backpedal a little bit. The way that Robin and Gizelle pulled out their phones and started recording Wendy struggling, that was ugly. And I think that that's where that colorism piece comes in. Like, let's humiliate you. Let's pick at you. Let's pick at you since you think you're so this and you think you're so that. Giselle and Robin have this very mean girl approach. They do. They act like the popular light-skinned girls in high school who, you know how they say in life, high school repeats itself, right? With the social circles and stuff. People often carry their position in high school. They kind of carry that with them for the rest of their lives in a weird way. Robin and Gizelle give that. They give, like, we're the pretty girls, we're this and we're that, and we're the girls of this clique, and you don't fit in. And you see all these other girls wanting to fit in for the sake of the show. Initially Candiace, I don't think Candiace really cares anymore. I think Candiace kind of learned her footing. But in the beginning, it's a way of like when you come on the show, you want to fit in with the top girl on the show. You don't want to have any problems, or you want to figure out how to stay out of the way. You get what I'm saying? So, with that being said, um, I have my mic here. With that being said, you know, it's just really unfortunate how that conversation was handled. And for me, I just don't see any accountability. I see like half accountability. Oh, my hair. Sorry. Oh, Lord. Sorry. I see half a accountability. Sorry, I was thinking my hair was like, because I'm looking at my, it's a mess. But I see half a accountability, and I see a lack of care, and the reason why I think is because colorism makes people feel uncomfortable, especially if you are privileged, right? And this is why with Ashley in particular, Ashley makes her mistakes, but Ashley on the cast of RHOP, with a lot of the altercations that she's been in, Ashley just faces the cake. I don't think Ashley runs from uncomfortable things like the other girls do. Did she deny the colorism a little bit? Yes, she did. Especially on last night's episode when Candiace lit Gizelle up. She lit Gizelle up. She kept ripping Gizelle a new one. And I think it's because she just did. She wants Gizelle to understand, and she wants Gizelle to apologize for what she did to Chris. And not only that, for the examples of colorism and the gaslighting that Gizelle does and how manipulative she is. Gizelle moves like a passive aggressive, oh, I don't want to catch any fire for saying this, but women in this world who have privilege, I'll say it this way, women in this world who have privilege tend to operate in passive aggressiveness, right? Shout out to Amanda Seales. She talks about it all the time. But there are women who know that their tears and that their ability to get people to sympathize with their pain, and not another woman who is darker or who doesn't fit the beauty standards and so forth, things like that, the full beauty standards. They understand the power that they have, right, within this society that we live in, within this colorist world, patriarchal world, all the ists, all the racists, all the ists, all that, within this world that we live in. Oh, my hair is a mess. Within this world that we live in, there are certain women who know the advantage that they have, and they use that. And Gizelle has used that, right? And we always see this pattern, and Wendy even called it out. There is a pattern on the show where Gizelle will say things about people's husbands, or she will do shady things on camera and off camera, right? For the sake of the show, right? So I'm all over the place here. But I say all that to say, when these conversations are had, people get very, very uncomfortable. I hope this audio isn't too loud for you all. People get very, very uncomfortable when this conversation is had, because it's just difficult for some people to take accountability. And particularly, last night's episode, Candiace called her out. Candiace was like, you're white you're white this. And the girls couldn't take it because they were like, oh my God, you're like invalidating her blackness. They tried to like reverse it on her and gaslight her even further. But this is when Candiace called out Gizelle for the second time on the third reunion, sorry. And here's the thing. I don't think Candiace is wrong, and I'm going to get into where Candiace is wrong. But, I don't think Candiace was wrong in this particular moment, because she's saying what it is. You lied on someone's husband, you know what I mean? And for you to not see that, or not see, and it's lying, but it's not even lying. It's lying, but it's the words that you were choosing, right? This is where we are getting into semantics. This is where people are trying to push Gizelle, and Robin to not defend her. Robin needs to just know when to speak and when to not speak. But people are trying to push Gizelle to understand what she did wrong, right? And even Andy was kind of like, oh, you on your own, sis. Now, I normally defend you on these reunions, and I let you slide. But on this, honey, the black folk gonna be mad at us when they watch this, so I'm not with you on this one. You on your own, because this is TV, and I'm not gonna be dragged for being racist, so I'm gonna be quiet because I'm white and I'm gay. So let me just not even do this, girl, because I live for the mess too, and I'm problematic too. But, I'm gonna let you handle that, Candiace. I'm gonna let you speak for yourself, and Gizelle, you're on your own. Take accountability or not. Gizelle is Gizelle, right? And I just think that Candiace said her piece, and she has to make peace with how that works, unfortunately. not saying to deal with it because it's not right, but what I'm saying is that, Gizelle, And honestly, I don't think Candiace will like really make peace. I think this is something that, maybe later down the line they could probably, talk it out. But it is a serious conversation. And what I will say is that I'm happy that it's being stabbed at. Is it good? No. Is it good? No. But once again, the issue that we're having is that the way that certain girls are treated in that particular group is different, right? One can say and do one thing, but the other can't. Mia could throw a drink into Wendy's eyes, and people are telling Wendy to calm down. People are saying, you are aggressive and you started it. She did not start that. For Wendy to defend herself, she has a right to defend herself. For Wendy to go back and forth with you and be catty back, she has a right to do that. So why is it that when the dark skinned girl can keep up with you and participate in this banter and do this back, now all of a sudden she's aggressive and you can't take, but you conditioning you can't take it. And then when we are like, okay, well, you're policing what I do, but let's police what you do. You are a colorist. You are. You see what I'm saying? So I think that that's just where the argument is. I love Karen, but Karen does straddle the fence sometimes. But I also think that Karen tries to defend. I just think that this makes people uncomfortable. I just think people deal with this conversation and they're kind of like, oh, I don't want to deal with this child. So I just think people handle it in that particular way instead of just facing it head on. And Ashley, in my opinion, was like the only one who was like, you know what, I could see that. And I'll give you that. I could see my privilege as a light-skinned woman. I could see what other people are seeing when we are on the show. They're not acting, but when we're on the show going back and forth and the way that we are acting, I can see how you are penalized and people are keeping like punitive points on you versus me or Robin or Gizelle or even Karen sometimes, right? Or Mia, right? Mia literally got a slap on the wrist for how she acted. I think that Mia was looking for a moment, And before this, I thought Mia was a key. Like, I was like, Mia is such a hot mess. Oh, she's a mess. But girls do that a certain way. And I think particularly with light-skinned women in particular, light-skinned black women struggle with that. A lot of them do not want to admit that they do have privilege, and they know that they do have privilege. They know that. And I think that it's something that is difficult for them to handle when it's in their face. And oftentimes they'll be like, well, I was called this and I was called that. The issue with you responding that way is you disregarding the privilege that you have and you being called out on that. This isn't to say that people don't also label them or say certain things about them, but it's the difference. And the difference is, and with this particular conversation in this particular dynamic, is the colorism that is occurring. Sorry, I touched the mic with my lip gloss. Sorry. So yeah, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. Now, Candiace. Candiace made me like her again this season because I've just been liking how she's been handling things. But before that, I wasn't feeling Candiace, to be honest with you. I wasn't feeling her. I've always had like this love. I don't think I hate anyone or love anyone. I don't know this person personally. This is commentary. But I still don't like how Monique was handled in that situation, right? And this is where we talk about respectability politics. I might get some pushback on this, right? But my issue with Candiace still to this day is how once I'm not condoning physical violence. That's not what I'm saying, right? But a few seasons ago, Candiace and Monique had a physical altercation. And Candiace did egg that on. Candiace was like, drag me, do this, do that, do this, whoopty, 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 whoop. All in the face, doing all of that. Monique said, boop, 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 boop. A 2-piece and a biscuit right there. And they were on a farm somewhere. And, Monique laid hands on her. She did. Monique laid hands on her. And then it sparked into this whole thing of, you are embarrassing black women, Monique. And the whole cast chastised Monique because they did not like Monique, right? They did not like her. And Candiace knew that. And Candiace didn't like her either. But when it comes to colorism, See, maybe I'm asking too much of Candiace, because if someone were to hit me, I'm not going to defend you, child. So I could see why Candiace is like, girl, this ain't colorism. This is you putting your hands on me because you cannot. Candiace's perspective is like, if we're gonna be on reality TV, we know that we're gonna fight with words. We know what we signed up for. So can you handle me with your words, or are you gonna pull my hair out and punch me and drag my head and hit my head on the table? And because Monique did that, Monique hit the head on the table, punched, wine was thrown. It was pretty. It was bad. It was a crazy fight. Um, but all those girls got Monique on up out of there. They all collectively ganged up on her and got her out of there. Right now. This is where that respectability politics comes in, right? And here's the thing. I know that in today's age, us as black people, we want to challenge respectability politics. We want to dismantle that. We are actively working on dismantling that. But I also think that it still shows up, right? And it's always going to show up. You know, these women are women who are on TV. These women have money. These women are in a different tax bracket and so forth, right? So the respectability politics conversation is going to happen, right? Between all of these particular girls. It's just going to happen. And see, this is the burden of representation, because regardless, not me say regardless, for both dark-skinned black women and light-skinned black women and brown and in between and all that or whatever, although I consider all of us brown, child, or black. That's the burden of representation, right? You show up a certain way on national television, people are going to pin you to the cross, right? People do stereotype black women. People do stereotype, every living person on this earth has a stereotype about who they are, their ethnicity, their gender, their sexuality. All of us walk around with that, right? But I just think that people want Gizelle to see. And I think that Gizelle just refuses to see. Because she's never had to. That's the biggest joke. She's never had to. She's never had to. And does she care? No, she doesn't care. She doesn't care. She just wants her money. Have you been seeing all her interviews? She doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't care. She doesn't care. She doesn't care, right? So I just think that Candiace said her piece. Candiace has a right to be emotional in this context. Now, in the context of Monique, I'm still not over that. I still think that Monique should have been handled differently in that particular situation. And frankly, I am. Oh, how could I say this? Candiace provoked Monique. You cannot, and that's just how I feel about it. Although I do support Candiace, and let me not say I support, because she might see this like, girl, you don't support me. I see why Candiace was upset, and I can see how Candiace's argument is like, well, regardless, why did you hit me? Like, I should have never gotten that far. We were friends. But Candiace cussed with that. You know, let me not say but. Candiace has a way of cutting, right? And I think that Candiace triggers, right? Candiace has a way. Some people, when they argue, they are so clever and so witty. They have a way of cutting. And I think Monique was kind of like, okay, you're calling me to the mat. I'm not condoning violence, but I'm speaking in the context of the show. You know, Monique's perspective was that. I wish Monique was given a little bit more grace. I honestly miss Monique on the show, and I hope they bring her back, because I really want to see her and Candiace talk about that. I really think that's what I want to see. After all of this stuff that played out with Wendy and Mia and Gizelle and Chris and Candiace, I would like Monique to come back, right? But this is what I will say about this is that in regards to reality television and being black, this is a tricky dance that all black people do on reality TV, right? I remember, y'all remember, well, I took them off my YouTube page, and I was doing interviews with a show. It was an LGBTQ show. And I remember there was a cast member on the show, and she was an activist, right? And it was just, it put us all in a tricky situation. And I even got chastised by basically how I was like holding certain people accountable on that show. But I also got a little bit of backlash. It wasn't anything that was popular. It wasn't anything that was crazy, right? But I say all this to say that, oh, excuse me, you guys. Oh my God. Lord have mercy. It's the water. It's water. It's water. Okay, I should not be burping. I'm not going to edit it out. Okay. But that's a tricky dance, and that's the burden of representation in reality TV, right? What Andy could have done for this particular reunion is probably bring someone in to at least educate the folks on what colorism is, why said person is saying this and why they feel this way, why the other person is not accepting it, and probably where they stand. Now, Karen did a good job. I'm all over the place. Karen did a good job of just saying, well, you have to listen to the feeling, Gizelle. You have to pay attention to the feeling, right? It's listen to how this person feels. That's all that they are saying. And I think that that's literally all that Candiace wants. Um, the situation with Monique and Candiace, okay, you know what? Let me not be too hard on Candiace. The situation with Monique and Candiace is different, right? It's very different. Um, but Mia should definitely, and I think this is the goal of it. Mia should definitely be held to the cross, right? And Gizelle should not be given a slap on the wrist for accusing someone of SA, right? So that's where it just seems like the light skinned girls kind of get let off easier. They don't face as much backlash as the chocolate girls do, right? Monique got a lot of backlash for the fight with Candiace. Candiace is getting backlash for being emotional and crying when the other girls cry and they say how they feel. But when Candiace says something, she does get policed. She does. She does get policed. She does. She does. And it's not received the same way. So I hope my message is clear. I think for me, I could see the colorism, but I'm also kind of like, Candiace, how you did Monique. We got how you did Monique. How you did Monique. That don't sit right with me. But also Monique did get gangster. Monique did get gangster. And Monique was like, oh, y'all got me all the way out of character. I'm over here really throwing balls at this lady on TV. Like, and it's not just no hair pulling. It's we throwing drinks, like head hitting the table. It was like a whole thing. You know what I mean? Mia should have been chastised for that because I feel like Mia started that. Mia did start that with Wendy. I'm all over the place. So all in all, those are some of my thoughts about the issue of colorism. It is very vivid on this particular show. Some of the girls tried to be understanding, but ultimately I feel like a lot of them are just dismissive. They took a stab at being understanding. It wasn't enough time to have this particular conversation. They could have talked about it longer. But I genuinely think that it's something that makes all of the other people who are not dark skinned uncomfortable. I think that people still don't want to be labeled as a racist or a colorist. They don't want to be labeled as that. So they have a difficult time having the conversation. It's difficult to have, right? It's difficult to have because a lot of people who are not dark skinned, some of them just don't get it, right? Those are my 2 cents on that. I'm hoping this translated correctly because I know that it is a hot topic right now. And all I can say is that in this particular context, Candiace does have a right to feel how she feels in regards to her husband and calling things out. And also too, let me say this because I feel like I'd be a little hard on Candiace. I could see her points in regards to Monique, although I also wish Monique was given some understanding. I feel like all the entire cast kind of turned on her except Ashley, But yeah, I wish Monique was given some understanding back then at least. I think that everyone took that as a moment to be like, you know what? Well, we're all just going to turn on her because we don't like her anyway. And even on this reunion, when Wendy started crying about Mia throwing the drink on her and how it made her feel, Gizelle literally was like, well, I don't care about you and I don't care about how you feel because I don't like you. And she looked at Andy. She didn't even look at Wendy as she said it. She was like literally mimicking and kind of taunting Wendy and just being a you know what, just being a cold one, right? And this is why people don't mess with Gizelle in general because Gizelle just doesn't flat out care. She just doesn't care. She's horrible, she's an asshole. She is. Sorry for my language to YouTube. I apologize. I wish I could bleep it out. But she just doesn't care. And you know what I've realized? I've realized that there are some people who are just removed. They see what's going on, but they don't care. There are some people who blatantly don't care, right? So on one end, I like how this conversation is being had on a reality show because, a lot of people feel that reality shows are bottom of the barrel trash entertainment. In some cases, it is, but also there are things that do occur on these shows that make people think. And I think this is where people discount reality TV because, the spiritual girls are like, this is low vibrational, yada, yada. There is an element of it that is trash and low vibrational, right? But people like it. People, the reason why reality TV sticks is because everyday people are watching. Everyday people are watching this. And everyday people are seeing themselves in these situations or just distracting themselves from their own lives and watching this. So, Candiace, continue to do your thing. I like you again, okay? Because I really like Monique too, but I'm gonna give Candiace a lot of understanding here, and Wendy as well. Because I think that carrying that is a lot. There are different expectations, especially if you are a darker woman. If you are a darker woman, you see it in every day. There are times when I'm in work spaces. And when I just show a little bit of agitation, I could literally see people get uncomfortable with me. Like people who are not black. Whenever I get a little, and there are moments where I feel like I have to watch how I respond and I have to really watch my tone because of how I look, of how I look. You could throw my transness in there too. You could throw that in there too. But in particular, I feel like even if I wasn't a trans woman, I think it would still apply because misogyny is real. So when you are a woman or a femme who is assertive and you speak your piece, and if you get emotional or agitated, there are going to be people in this world who get uncomfortable with you. They do. I still see it to this day. In my day-to-day interactions, like there will be times where I'll be in a workspace and I'll see the reaction of people when they see me getting a little intense or sharing my opinion and just saying it. But when I become a little bit outspoken, I could see them vividly get uncomfortable with me being outspoken or with me just sharing my piece. And it'll show up in ways where, and it's, it'll show up in ways, and I'm going to just say that it's colorism, potentially. It'll show up in ways where I'll probably disagree with someone professionally, and people will get uncomfortable with me disagreeing. And I'm like, no, I disagree with what was said. Like, yeah, we're at work, kumbaya. I disagree, and it's okay. I don't agree with you here. I see what you're saying, but I'll see some people get a little irritated with that. I'm like, okay, let me reel it back and let me soften it up. I gotta soften it up for you so you won't think that I'm an enemy of yours, right? So, I think that that's how colorism shows up for me in various workspaces. In my life at times when I deal with people who are not black and also people who are not dark skinned. It does show up. It does. So anyways, I'm happy that this conversation is being had. Is it enough? No. We can't, and this is why with my intelligent girls and my thinkers, there are times where I'm like, can we expect a lot from these reality shows? They're not going to give us this. Like, they don't care. At the end of the day, these people really do not care. What I'm saying? The people who are behind these shows and stuff like that, I'm like, I don't think they really care. Do they really care? I don't know if they really care to talk about it. They could attempt to talk about it. But do they really care about colorism or transphobia or homophobia or ageism or ableism or sexism? There are times where I feel like when it comes to these heavy topics, people still don't really know how to grapple with and navigate with it. I read an excellent article about the colorism issue on Real Housewives of Potomac, and the article stated how Candiace has to carry a lot of that weight and how that is very taxing for Black women. I fully agree with that 100%. Carrying that particular weight is very difficult, and she should not have had to do that. Her and Wendy. And the way that those girls dismissed Wendy when she started crying, right? Wendy Osefo is a professor. She is a professor first, right? And there are times where I'm like, girl, you shouldn't have came on this show. You're a professor. But that's my respectability policy coming in. We all have that in us, right? But with Wendy in particular, I just don't like how they constantly dismiss her and they minimize her because they just don't like her. And they never could just say why, right? It just seems like Wendy's never really given any grace. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. One last thought. I was gonna relay this to something else. Oh, I remember I had a work situation, and this happened in a transphobic way with me, where I had two cisgender women say some things about trans people, and there were other trans people in this particular workspace, and I was the only one who said something about it, right? We started going back and forth, and I tried my best to be respectful at first. I was trying to be very careful with my words, and honestly, I was still respectful, even when I got a little turned up and got a little upset and vividly upset. Um, I had a right to that, but the way that I was treated as if I was an enemy, or not an enemy, but I was gaslit in a way where everyone in this particular workspace made me feel like I was the problem for speaking up about it. You get what I'm saying? And they just dismissed me. I was literally just dismissed. We tried to resolve the issue. The issue was resolved, but I just feel like my point was not understood. You know, I wanted to talk to these two particular women about how they were transphobic and why they were transphobic. And they literally were just like, well, we don't care. You are, I mean, like, this is basically what they were saying to me. They were basically like, well, you need to be honest about who you are. You need to be honest about this. You need to be honest about that. And I was like, no, trans women are very honest about who they are. You need to stop saying ignorant like this. And you know, I told both of them, I'm like, don't think that just because you're a woman and that, you know, I support you, that I'm not gonna call you out on your shit. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. And it was so funny because when we were having this exchange, I at first I was really trying my best to be like, you know what, these girls, because what started it is that they said something transphobic, right? And one of them, it was a black woman. She made a statement about trans people, and I was like, okay, you're not gonna do that. That's what you're not gonna do, right? You're not just gonna say that and think that it's okay to just say that and that we have to deal with that just because of who you are. You want people to accept you. You want people to hear what you go through. Well, you need to hear about what we go through too in this particular space. That's what we're all here for. So you can't pick and choose, and you can't ask everyone to stop for you, but you're not trying to understand another black person who's trans. You're not going to understand me, but yet I have to stop for you, and I have to make room for you constantly. I have to negotiate with myself and my identity in this particular space professionally to accommodate you. I'm not gonna, and I told her, I was like, girl, I'm not gonna do that with you. And what you said was BS, and it was ignorant. And then the other one, she was a Latina girl, and I told her, I was like, you know, well, honestly, this is for you too, but I'm gonna handle the sister here because she thinks that just because we black, that I'm gonna let her talk to me like this. And she was an older black woman too. And I was like, I don't care if you're black, I don't care who you are, I don't care if you're older. And I told her that, literally, in the workspace. And it was something that it was a mess. It was a whole mess. But for me, I was like, you are being problematic. You are, and it's okay. And it's funny because even when we were arguing, I was like, now we could take this as a moment for us to educate one another on where we slipped up or whatever. Although I didn't do anything wrong in this particular dynamic, we could do that all day long. And she was like, no, this is just how I feel. And she was being her response to me was very, So I did it, you know, at first I was nice, but then I did it back. Cause I'm like, you're not, and I told her, I was like, girl, you're not gonna play in my face. That's not what you're gonna do. Not here. And when me and her were going back and forth about her transphobia, I was like, you know, I understand as a trans woman that the world is a certain way. I get that. I get that. But in this particular space, if I'm here, all I'm asking for you is to be respectful. And what you said was disrespectful. Did any of these trans people say anything to you about views on women? No, we didn't do anything. We sat here, we gave you the space, we listened, we made space for you. So why can't you do the same without you throwing out stereotypes and throwing out things that you know are negative about people like us, right? And she just did not care. And I literally was like, I know, and it was so sad because when we were arguing, I started getting frustrated because I was like, we're black. But see, here's the thing, and this is an intra-community issue. This is transphobia now. See, now we're getting deep, and I gotta end this. It's 38 minutes in, child, it's long. But basically, in that particular situation, I was just like, you know, I know that I cannot control how you think at home, right? But what I can do is call you out about how you're wrong. Like my logic was, when you go home and after this particular work event or whatever, I know that when you leave here, you're still gonna think that I'm a man. You're gonna think that I'm a man. You're gonna call me a man. You're gonna call me all these things or whatever. But what you're not gonna do is do that here and think that it's okay. That's not what you're going to do here. Not with me. And so she kept bucking up, and I bucked up back because I was like, I'm not gonna deal with this with you. I don't care. I don't care who the fuck you are. I don't care. You're not gonna be disrespectful. So we had words, and that was that. Agrees to disagree. But it was something that left me, honestly, it left me really hurt because I was like, we're black. We're both black here, and we're doing this at a work event in front of other people who are not black, girl. So why are you sitting here doing this? It was just a lot. So I'm gonna leave that there. I tried my best to relay that particular situation to colorism, although it is not the same. But I hope this video made sense. I hope this video made sense with my rants and my tangent. But this was something where I was like, let me take a stab at this particular conversation because I'm a talker. I am a talker. And I'm like, oh, my edge is lifting. Sorry, on my lace. But for me, I'm like, let me take a stab at this particular conversation because it's something that is going on. And I just think that people are not understanding what is happening. So that's my 2 cents on it. I like Candiace, I do. I'm still feeling a way about the Monique situation, but I also see Candiace's point of view and Monique's point of view. And yeah, so we're gonna leave it there. Drop down below and let me know your thoughts on this particular topic of colorism on the Real Housewives of Potomac Season 7 reunion. Like, comment, and share with your thoughts. I'm open to anything, just as long as you're not disrespectful, we're good. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this particular topic. And even if you didn't watch the show, you can always find the clips online. The clips are there for you to reference for Real Housewives of Potomac and the colorism conversation in regards to Candiace Dillard and Wendy Osefo and Robin Dixon and Gizelle Bryant. And the show and how the girls are navigating that. Oh, my mic moved here. Hope you enjoyed, and you will see me soon.